I never thought a house could hold secrets darker than the night itself. But the basement of my husband's villa proved me wrong. From the outside, everything looked perfect: the marble floors, the grand staircase, the golden chandeliers that sparkled whenever sunlight kissed them. But beneath that beauty was something I was never meant to see. Something that would change my life forever. My name is Clara, and I once believed I was the luckiest woman alive. My husband, Daniel, was a powerful businessman, charming and respected by everyone. We had a beautiful daughter, Mia, and from the outside we looked like the perfect family. But perfection has a price, and sometimes it's paid in silence. It started one rainy evening when Daniel left for a business trip. I was tucking Mia into bed when I heard a faint noise coming from the kitchen, a low hum, followed by a metallic clang. The sound came from behind the pantry door, the one Daniel always kept locked. He told me it led to the wine cellar, but I had never seen it myself. That night, curiosity got the better of me. My heart pounded as I searched his study for the spare key. I knew I shouldn't, but something inside me whispered that I had to. When I finally unlocked the door, a cold breeze hit my face. The smell of damp concrete filled the air. I grabbed a flashlight and took a cautious step down the narrow staircase. My pulse raced faster with every creak of the wooden steps. The basement wasn't what I expected. There were no wine bottles, no shelves, only a single metal chair, chains, and a camera pointed toward it. My blood turned cold. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to run, but my legs froze. Then I saw something that made my knees give out: a file with my name written on it, and inside, photos of me, taken while I slept. My vision blurred, my stomach twisted, and I stumbled backward, trying to escape that suffocating darkness. That was the moment I realized I didn't truly know the man I married. And whatever was happening in that basement was only the beginning of the nightmare. I ran upstairs as fast as I could, clutching the flashlight like it was the only thing keeping me alive. My heart was hammering against my ribs, every beat echoing in my ears. I locked myself in my room, my hands trembling as I tried to make sense of what I had seen. Who would set up a camera and chains in their own basement? Why was there a file with my name on it? I wanted to believe there was a logical explanation, but deep down, I knew there wasn't. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the door, afraid it might open at any second. When Daniel came home the next morning, I tried to act normal, pretending to read a book at the breakfast table. He smiled at me, kissed Mia on the forehead, and asked how our night was. I forced a smile, but I could feel his eyes studying me, searching for something. "You look pale, Clara," he said softly. "Everything okay?" His voice sounded gentle, but underneath it was something else, something cold. I nodded quickly, saying I hadn't slept well. He just smiled again, that same smile that once made me feel safe, but now made my skin crawl. After breakfast, I quietly went to the basement door again, but the key was gone. He had taken it. He knew. For the next few days, I watched him closely. He made phone calls late at night, whispering in another language I didn't understand. He wouldn't let Mia out of his sight, not even for school. The servants had started acting strange too, avoiding my eyes, keeping conversation short. I realized then that whatever was happening wasn't just a secret. It was something everyone in the house already knew. Except me. That's when I made up my mind. I had to leave. For Mia's sake. I started planning quietly, hiding some cash, packing a few clothes in an old bag, and memorizing the guard's shift schedule. Every sound in that house made me jump. I couldn't eat. I couldn't rest. The walls felt like they were closing in, but no matter how scared I was, I knew one thing: if I didn't escape soon, I might never get another chance. The night I decided to escape, the rain returned, the same cold rain that had fallen the day I discovered the basement. It was as if the sky itself was warning me, whispering, "Don't wait any longer." I had spent days pretending to be fine, smiling at Daniel, reading bedtime stories to Mia, even laughing at dinner when he told his usual fake stories about business trips. But inside, I was counting the hours. I had hidden some cash in Mia's teddy bear and slipped my wedding ring into my pocket. I didn't want him to find it and suspect anything. That night, after everyone went to bed, I dressed Mia in warm clothes and told her we were going on an adventure. She was too young to understand, but she nodded sleepily, trusting me completely. My hands were shaking as I led her down the back stairs, the same ones the servants used. The house was eerily quiet, except for the hum of the security cameras. I knew their blind spots by heart now, after observing them for days. I held my breath as we reached the kitchen door. I could almost taste freedom, but just as I was about to step outside, I heard a voice behind me, calm, deep, terrifying. "Going somewhere, Clara?" My blood ran cold. Daniel stood in the shadows, wearing his robe, his phone in one hand, and the missing basement key in the other. I froze, pulling Mia close to me. He stepped closer, the fake smile gone. "You shouldn't have gone down there," he whispered. "You were never supposed to see that room." His tone sent chills through my spine. I begged him to let us go, promising I'd never say a word, but his expression didn't change. He turned to the guards who appeared behind him and said coldly, "She's confused. Make sure she stays home." I screamed and tried to run, but one of the guards grabbed me, yanking Mia from my arms. Daniel looked at me like I was nothing but a foolish child. "You'll learn, Clara," he said softly. "You'll learn that curiosity is dangerous." As they dragged me away, I realized the real prison wasn't that basement. It was this house, and I was trapped inside it. The next morning, I woke up in our bedroom with the door locked from the outside. My head was pounding, and I could still feel the bruises on my wrists where the guards had grabbed me. The curtains were drawn, and the room felt suffocating. I tried to call for Mia, but no one answered. Panic clawed at my chest as I banged on the door, screaming her name. Minutes later, Daniel walked in, calm as ever, holding a tray with breakfast. "You need to eat," he said softly, as if nothing had happened. I demanded to see my daughter, my voice shaking with rage and fear, but he just smiled and said, "She's safe. As long as you behave, she'll stay that way." I felt my whole world collapse in that moment. He sat across from me, cutting his food with surgical precision, and continued talking like we were having a normal morning. "You're too emotional, Clara. You imagine things that aren't real. I built this home to protect you, to protect us." His words twisted into something darker. "You should be grateful." Then he stood up and locked the door behind him, leaving me in silence. The next few days blurred together. A servant would bring food twice a day but never spoke a word. I tried to talk to her once, but she just shook her head in fear. Cameras had been installed in the hallway outside, and guards were stationed at every exit. I was being watched every move, every breath. I couldn't sleep without seeing that basement in my mind. Those chains, that chair, those pictures. I kept wondering what Daniel was planning, what he did down there, and why my name was part of it. Each night I whispered promises to Mia through the walls, praying she could hear me. I didn't care what it took anymore, I would find a way out. On the fourth night, I noticed something when the servant brought dinner. Her hands trembled slightly, and in her apron pocket, I saw the edge of a phone. That was my chance. I didn't know if I could trust her, but I knew one thing for sure. The only way to save myself and my daughter was to take a risk, even if it meant gambling with my life. That night, I waited until the entire villa was asleep. I could hear the rhythmic footsteps of the guards outside my door and the faint ticking of the antique clock on the wall. Every sound was a reminder that time was slipping away. I kept staring at the servant's phone hidden in her apron earlier that day, replaying the moment in my head. When she came in with breakfast the next morning, I whispered quickly, "Please help me. I need to call someone." Her eyes widened in fear, and for a second I thought she would scream, but then she shook her head subtly. Later that evening, When she brought my dinner, she dropped a napkin on the floor, and as she bent down to pick it up, I saw her hand slide something under my bed, the phone. My heart almost stopped beating. After she left, I waited in silence, counting every second. Once the footsteps outside faded, I knelt on the cold floor and reached under the bed. My fingers brushed the phone's smooth surface. I couldn't believe it was real. My hands trembled as I turned it on, praying it wouldn't make a sound. The screen glowed faintly, and I quickly checked for service. There was barely one signal bar, but it was enough. I typed 911 with shaking fingers, but then I froze. What if they traced the call? What if Daniel found out? I closed my eyes and whispered to myself, "You can't live like this, Clara." I pressed the call button. The line rang once, twice, and then a voice answered, "Emergency services. What's your location?" I couldn't speak at first. Tears were running down my face uncontrollably. "Please," I finally whispered. "My husband is keeping me locked in. My daughter, she's here too. Please send help." The operator's tone shifted immediately. "Ma'am, stay calm. Can you tell me where you are?" Before I could respond, I heard footsteps outside, faster this time, heavier. My heart stopped. I quickly hid the phone under the mattress just as the door handle turned. The guards entered, eyes scanning the room. One of them looked directly at me and said, "Mr. Daniel wants to see you in the basement." My blood turned to ice. They had found out. The guards grabbed me by the arms and dragged me down the hallway while my bare feet scraped against the marble floor. I wanted to fight back, to scream, but fear had stolen my voice. The air grew colder with every step closer to the basement, and by the time we reached the door, I was shaking uncontrollably. When it creaked open, that familiar smell of damp concrete and metal filled my lungs again. The lights flickered, revealing the same cold chair in the center of the room, the same one I had seen that night. Daniel stood beside it, his expression calm but his eyes blazing with something dark. "You just couldn't stop digging, could you?" he said softly, almost disappointed. "I gave you everything, a home, a life, protection, and this is how you repay me?" I didn't answer. I was too busy scanning the room, trying to see if Mia was there. She wasn't. Relief and terror battled inside me. "Where's my daughter?" I finally managed to ask. Daniel smiled, that same terrifying smile that no longer belonged to the man I had once loved. "Safe," he said, "for now." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You made a call tonight, didn't you?" My breath caught. He knew. I didn't respond, but the panic in my eyes gave me away. He chuckled quietly, shaking his head. "You really think the police would believe you? You think anyone would dare step foot in my house?" He turned to the guards. "Lock her here until I decide what to do with her." They pushed me into the room and slammed the door shut, leaving me in complete darkness. I collapsed onto the cold floor, trembling, my mind spinning. I thought it was over. But then, faintly, through the vent near the ceiling, I heard something voices. They were muffled, distant, but not his. It sounded like shouting, like multiple people moving through the house. My heart leapt. Could it be the police? I crawled toward the vent, pressing my ear against it. The sound grew louder, heavy boots, commands being shouted, doors slamming. My chest tightened with hope and disbelief. Daniel's voice roared somewhere above, furious and desperate. I didn't know what was happening, but one thing was certain: my call had been heard. The chaos above me grew louder by the second hurried footsteps. Furniture being overturned, Daniel shouting orders that no one seemed to follow. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Then suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the basement as the door burst open. A beam of light cut through the darkness, and I covered my eyes instinctively. "Police, don't move!" a voice commanded. For a moment I couldn't breathe. I thought I was imagining it, but then 2 officers rushed in, their flashlights sweeping across the room. Relief flooded through me so violently that my legs gave out. "Please," I sobbed. "My daughter, she's upstairs." One of the officers nodded quickly, signaling his partner before lifting me to my feet. "You're safe now, ma'am," he said firmly. "We received your call." Tears streamed down my face as they led me out of the basement. My hands were still trembling, my throat raw from crying. As we climbed the stairs, I saw Daniel at the end of the hallway, handcuffed and furious, his perfect image finally shattered. He looked at me with pure venom in his eyes. "You'll regret this, Clara," he hissed. But his words no longer held power over me. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. I just wanted Mia. I ran past the officers, shouting her name until I heard a faint cry coming from her room. I threw the door open and found her curled up on the bed, clutching her teddy bear, tears streaking her little face. "Mommy," she whispered, her voice breaking. I ran to her, pulling her into my arms, holding her so tight I never wanted to let go. "It's over, baby," I whispered into her hair. "We're safe now." As we stepped outside, the cold night air hit my face, and I saw the flashing red and blue lights reflecting off the villa's marble walls. Dozens of officers were searching the property. One of them came up to me, his face serious. "Ma'am," he said, "you were right to call. We found evidence in the basement, things we can't even describe." I felt my stomach twist, but I didn't ask what they meant. I didn't need to know. I just wanted to leave that house forever and never look back. The drive to the police station felt like a blur. I sat in the back of the car, holding Mia close as she slept against my shoulder, her tiny hands still trembling even in her dreams. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that basement again, the chair, the chains, the camera, and those pictures of me. I couldn't stop wondering how long Daniel had been watching me, studying me like some kind of experiment. When we arrived, the officers led us inside gently, offering blankets and warm tea. A female officer sat across from me, her tone soft but firm. "You're safe now, Clara," she said, "but we need to understand what happened." I told her everything: the locked door, the strange noises, the night I went down there, and how Daniel caught me when I tried to escape. Every word felt like reopening a wound, but I didn't stop. The officer listened quietly, taking notes, her expression hardening with every detail. When I mentioned the file with my name and the camera, she exchanged a quick, grim look with another detective. "We'll handle it," she said, her voice lower now. "You did the right thing by calling." Hours passed before another officer came in, holding a folder. "We searched the entire villa," he said. The basement wasn't just a room, it was a recording setup. There were multiple files, hidden drives, and evidence suggesting he was monitoring several people. My heart sank. Several people. That meant I wasn't the only one. He paused, then added quietly, "Your name appeared on every single file." I felt sick, my hands gripping the edge of the chair. The officer continued, "We believe he planned to use the footage for blackmail. You might have uncovered it before he could destroy the evidence." I stared at the wall, everything spinning in my head. Daniel wasn't just cruel, he was dangerous. But now he was behind bars, and for the first time in years I could breathe. When morning light finally crept through the blinds, I looked down at Mia, still sleeping beside me on the small couch. I brushed her hair gently and whispered, "It's over." But deep down, I knew healing would take time, because some scars don't fade when the danger ends. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, I began to piece together the fragments of my shattered life. The police kept me informed about the investigation, though most of the details were things I wished I could forget. They discovered that Daniel had been recording me for months, possibly years, keeping detailed notes about my routines, my conversations, even my sleep patterns. The files they recovered showed hidden cameras throughout the villa, in the bedroom, the kitchen, even in Mia's playroom. Every smile, every laugh, every private moment had been watched, analyzed, and controlled. The realization made my skin crawl. I couldn't believe I had shared a home, a life, with someone capable of such evil. The news spread quickly. Daniel's empire collapsed overnight. His partners abandoned him. His company was seized for investigation, and the man who once looked untouchable was suddenly a headline. Business tycoon arrested for domestic surveillance and abuse. Seeing his face on the news made me feel both vindicated and hollow. I should have felt triumphant, but instead I felt haunted. At night, I would wake up sweating, convinced I was still being watched. Every knock on the door made my heart race. The police arranged for me and Mia to stay in a safe house until the trial. It was small but peaceful, with sunlight pouring through the windows, something I hadn't seen freely in years. Mia began smiling again, drawing pictures of us at the park, her laughter slowly replacing the silence that once filled our days. One afternoon, as I watched her chase butterflies in the garden, I realized that freedom wasn't just about leaving the villa. It was about reclaiming the parts of myself Daniel had stolen. I began therapy, started journaling, and tried to forgive myself for not seeing the truth sooner. The officers who handled my case called me brave, but I didn't feel brave. I just felt grateful that I had listened to that whisper of instinct, that I had taken the risk to make that call, because that single moment of courage had saved our lives. And though the pain would take time to fade, I knew one thing for sure. I would never let fear silence me again. The day of Daniel's trial arrived like a storm I had been waiting for. As I walked into the courtroom, my hands trembled, but not from fear, from the weight of everything I had endured. The room was filled with reporters, flashing cameras, and whispers that seemed to echo against the marble walls. I sat in the front row, holding a small locket around my neck that Mia had given me, a tiny reminder of why I was still standing. Daniel entered the courtroom in handcuffs, his once flawless suit replaced by a gray prison uniform. For a brief moment our eyes met. There was no love left. No hate, even just emptiness. He looked smaller, weaker, stripped of the power he once used to control me. When the prosecution began presenting the evidence, the room fell silent. The recordings, the photographs, the surveillance setup in the basement, every secret he had tried to bury was exposed under bright courtroom lights. I watched as the truth unfolded piece by piece, and with each revelation I felt a little lighter. When my turn came to testify, my voice shook at first. But then I remembered Mia's face, her laughter, her trust in me. He thought he could own me, I said softly, my eyes fixed on Daniel. But love isn't control. Marriage isn't a cage, and secrets always find their way to the light. The judge's gavel hit the desk hours later, sentencing him to years behind bars for unlawful surveillance, abuse, and coercion. The crowd murmured, cameras flashed, but all I could think about was walking out of that courtroom with my daughter, and never looking back. Outside, the air felt fresher than it ever had before. The sun was warm on my skin, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel watched. I looked down at Mia, who squeezed my hand and smiled. "Can we go home now, Mommy?" she asked. I smiled back through tears. "Yes, baby," I whispered. "We finally can." That night, as I tucked her into bed in our new home, I stood by the window and stared at the stars. The darkness no longer scared me. It reminded me that even in the deepest shadows, there's always a way out. And I had found mine.